Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks.
Luckily, we have a beautiful day in New York City, so we don't have to talk about the weather all too much to kick off this conversation. But we are here to talk about AI, and you and I were just talking backstage about how AI has something in common with your former job at SoundCloud, and you're saying AI and music are very similar. That's kind of a fun thing to start on. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, sure. We like to think of the weather company as being an OG AI company. We've been building forecasts and helping people prepare and plan for decades. And if you think about the music industry, if you think about the services that you use in the music industry, you might sort of recognize that you're getting a lot of music recommendations. And those recommendations are actually a form of OG AI as well. So the ways in which the methods and the models and the math are used in both the music industry and the weather industry are really similar. And that's a really exciting opportunity, I think, for what's to come.
And what is uniquely difficult about forecasting weather, being correct, making a good prediction that people can rely on, that makes it suited for using AI applications? And conversely, what makes it, in some cases, not right for using AI applications?
Great question. I think that when you consider the scale at which we are forecasting, you really need, again, to use a lot of math, models, and methods. So how many points on Earth do you think that we forecast the weather for? Millions or billions? Billions, 2.2 billion points on Earth. And we do that every sort of X minutes. And in order to do that, you have to have a lot of compute, but you have to have really, really powerful models. And you can't rely on a single model. You have to have hundreds of models that help you predict what is sort of the best forecast for you in a hyper-localized way. And as we move forward, there's going to be different methods that we actually add to our model of models. There's going to be a really interesting opportunity for us to think about how to use AI in new ways to solve new problems for customers, which is not just the forecast, but actually the insights and intelligence on what to do with that forecast in order to live the life that you want to live or you want to lead. And then interestingly and increasingly, what we're finding is that weather means business. All businesses and all enterprises have a high dependency on weather in order to run their businesses or to serve their customers. And so we see AI as a really integral and effective component in helping those businesses serve their customers.
Can you give us some examples of some personalized insights an AI application could give us about weather that could impact either your personal life or your work life, like something we're not even thinking about that AI could be helping us with?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different applications. So for example, if any of you are skiers, how could our computational models around forecasting the weather plus AI deliver you a better ability to decide whether to go to mountain A or mountain B? So for example, AI can be really powerful in giving you a probabilistic forecast rather than a deterministic forecast. A deterministic forecast is ultimately telling you what is the most likely scenario. A probabilistic forecast is giving you all the combinations of what might or could happen, and they will help you decide which mountain you should go to. So I think that's just one of many examples. Another one is, what if we could actually tell you on a particular day or week or time of day whether you should take your pet out for a walk before it gets too hot and they actually will get hurt? And wouldn't it be fun if we actually deliver that message to you knowing that you're likely to have a pet, that you're likely to choose a morning or afternoon walk, and that you have a type of dog that actually needs a lot of exercise? So if we actually mix all of that signal together and deliver you a point of intelligence, that can be really powerful and helpful.
And getting away from AI for a minute, obviously weather forecasting has gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's based in some very old school technology and sort of just physical things that you have to have out in the atmosphere at weather stations that meteorologists use. So where is AI truly not applicable in the sort of basics of forecasting weather?
Yeah, I think ultimately one of our superpowers is that we actually use lots of these models and math, but we think that our secret sauce is also in how we apply talented scientists and meteorologists to the formula to ensure that there is checks and balances against what those models are effectively communicating and computing so that we can ensure that we are delivering an accurate forecast for our customers, whether they be you, individuals, or businesses. A great example, or a simple, fun example, is a model might suggest that there's a thunderstorm in a particular area, let's say New York City, but what our scientists and our meteorologists might find is that that's actually a flock of birds and not a thunder shower. And so having that ability to go in and micro-correct a forecast at scale is actually a really powerful method that allows us to actually, by independent measurement, be the most accurate forecaster in the world.
So we're not yet at the point where AI could have seen that it was a flock of birds.
We are not necessarily at that point, and ultimately we'll see if we'll ever be at that point, but I think that we believe that it's AI plus great talent humans with great skills that actually creates a really incredible experience that solves customer problems.
And speaking of that data, so much of what you're able to do is because of what NOAA and the National Weather Service gathers every day at the federal level. So what have these cuts to the National Weather Service and NOAA meant for your business, and how have you dealt with a lack of staffing in some of these field offices?
So give me a second, I have a prepared statement. No, I'm just joking. So, look, ultimately, we believe that delivering the world's most accurate forecast leverages a really rich and deep relationship between private and public sector. And we leverage those relationships to ensure that we are delivering a world-class forecast and world-class insights to all of you. And ultimately, that information and those insights is computed and calculated in a lot of different ways. We are actually very fortunate because we've been spending decades on refining that process, and it makes us independent of any single source. And ultimately, the more sources of information that we have in order to be able to calculate that, the more accurate we will be, and therefore the more problems of each of us we can serve and solve, the more lives we can protect, the more families we can help plan and prepare for. And so ultimately, that's the set of conditions that we're constantly considering as a company and taking our responsibility in delivering those services to all of you seriously.
Is there ever a future where weather forecasting can all be done by the private sector and you don't need the government's data anymore?
That is definitely over my qualification level. We think that, again, it is really important, it is really powerful to have public and private sector participation and partnership. And what we've seen and what hopefully all of you experience is the outcome of that, which we think by the feedback that we get from hundreds of millions of consumers around the world, the feedback that we get from over 2,000 businesses that we support, from customers such as the major aviation companies of the US, who ensure that 25,000 flights deliver each and every one of you safely and comfortably from point A to point B. We think that that set of conditions that we've created is world-class. Certainly can get better. In case any of you have ever relied on us and been rained on, then we got to get better, but we think it's a really, really effective service relative to how it's constructed.
A lot of what we talk about around AI and some of the problems that might arise is the idea that the data can be biased. So you guys are dealing with a lot of data, a lot of customer inputs, but it's unique. It's weather data. It's not so much people's personal data that you're working with. So how does bias come up in using AI for weather?
Sure. We have a number of different safety valves that help us assess the kinds of content that we are compiling in order to create a forecast. We obviously have really robust and rich relationships with consumers, all of you, through some of our brands. Hopefully you've heard of them, the Weather Channel, Weather Underground, Storm Radar. You provide us specific authorized signal about what your interests and activities, and from that we identify what your behaviors are, and we mash all of that up in order to be able to deliver you, what we believe is compelling capability, compelling insight information, hopefully and increasingly over time, compelling content, and the mix of all of that is hopefully done in a way where we're really mindful of making sure that how we use AI and how we actually use your own signal and how we use that with the models and math that we've perfected over decades actually deliver the right information. I think one more thing that's of note, we also think that AI should be playing a bigger role in our customer service stack. Our talent in that area relative to the amount of customers and companies that we support is, as you can imagine, a pretty big gap. We think that using modern technology to help secure and understand the signal that you give us about what may be wrong or what may be inaccurate can actually help speed up the process of making sure that we are training our systems in such a way where we can deliver more and more accurate information to you.
And we're living in an era of extreme weather with floods, hurricanes. How has using AI at the weather company helped you or augmented the way that you plan for that and you get these messages out to people to be prepared for what's coming?
Yeah, we, again, take in signal both from various models that exist in the market, the models that we create ourselves. We take the signal that you give us, and ultimately that allows us to inform you both proactively, but also ensure that when you arrive at our services, we're identifying who you are, where you're from, what the conditions around you might look like, both now and in the future, and starting to deliver that to you in an intelligent way. I think, interestingly, what we're also seeing is that that kind of signal is also really important to enterprises. For example, if you're an insurance company, you're starting to want to understand how should you think about how to insure different parts of the country based on how weather is changing. If you're in the agriculture business, you want to be able to understand what kind of crop yield that you're going to receive over time based on previous weather conditions and how that has impacted crop yield. So you want to be able to predict that. If you are in the beauty business, you want to know how you can anticipate what the weather conditions are going to look like and how you need to actually use that as an opportunity to advertise to consumers about what kinds of products that you want to put in front of them for their consideration. There's a whole litany of cases about how we use AI and how we use data, both in the forecasting models as well as in our consumer population and our enterprise context, that we actually can bring forth to all of you as sources of insight.
And on that note, we do have to wrap up. We're out of time, but thank you for your compelling look at where AI and climate intelligence intersect. And thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Good seeing you.